Hi folks, and welcome to the second of our series of lectures for PEC 1101, Semester 2. And the title of this lecture is called The Online Environment and Medical Professionalism, or Take 2 Aspirin and Treat Me in the Morning. So we just rehash what it means to be a professional and the definitions of professionalism in general. So professionalism is defined as a set of norms endorsed by a collective community and is characterized by a personal high standard of competence, including the means by which a person promotes or maintains the image of that profession. And if I could underline it on this presentation, I would underline the terms personal high standard of competence and promotion and maintenance of the image of that profession. And that is because those two terms are really important in terms of the online professionalism, okay? Professionalism involves a set of qualities, including not only knowledge and clinical skills, but commitment, integrity, individual responsibility, compassion, and accountability. So I mentioned before last semester, think of ourselves as being members of a guild. As a member of a guild of healthcare professionals, that attracts certain benefits, but equally in hand with those benefits come important responsibilities as well. I like to use my Spider-Man analogy. I'm analogous to know the very ancient iteration of Spider-Man. And the quote that usually is attached to this iteration is, with great power comes great responsibility, right? And that applies to all of us as healthcare professionals. So in terms of online professionalism, what's available online? What social media platforms are available? So there's Facebook, or Meta, as it recently rebranded itself. That's the largest social media network. There's Twitter. That's undergoing its own upheavals at the minute, so I don't know what form it will take in a couple of years, how important it will be. There's TikTok, Instagram, WhatsApp, Snapchat, and Tinder for online dating, right? So why is online professionalism important? Well, it's a relationship. It has its relationship with general professionalism, right? The same rules of general professionalism apply whether you're online or not. There's something called the online disinhibition effect, which we'll discuss later on in the lecture. This means that there's a sense of anonymity and detachment from societal norms and consequences when one is online. Again, why is online professionalism important in terms of the users? So Facebook or Meta has 2.6 billion monthly users. We're talking monthly figures, right? Instagram, 1.3 billion monthly users, and TikTok, 1 billion monthly users. I mentioned you're a member of a guild, so being a member of a guild, you have a higher standard, and it carries additional responsibilities to uphold the traditions of that guild. Remember, there's an inequality between the doctor-patient relationship, right? So if you betray a patient trust, betray their confidentiality or their privacy, it has even greater implications if these are done online. And it goes hand in hand with the previous slide, because when you do these things, betray privacy, betray confidentiality online, you see how many people it could ultimately reach out to, right? Billions of users monthly. And then why is online professionalism important as well? There must be some preservation of the doctor-patient relationship, the doctor-patient boundary, right? So we discussed in our tutorials, would you friend a patient? Would you accept a friend request from a patient? And in as much as you all as healthcare professionals are online, patients are online too, so they could see what you'll get up to. So tying in with that, is it appropriate that female doctors post pictures like these, right? We'll discuss this in the tutorial as well, but it spawned its own controversy called #MedBikini, right? And then guys, you don't escape. Are pictures like these professional, right? This is an optometrist, healthcare professional, right? So just to briefly talk about physician self-disclosures, or in Trinidad parlance, old talk. It involves informal chatting, so you could just be talking to the patient very, very informally before the actual medical interview starts. And in the process of that informal chatting, you betray a previous patient's confidence or betray their privacy, right? And this informal chatting is found to be unattached to any discussion in the visit and focus more on the physician's needs rather than on the patient's. So you have deliberate self-disclosures, accidental ones, and unavoidable ones. And if it's unhelpful in a face-to-face setting, then it's likely to be similarly unhelpful online. It may actually have more implications if it's done online, because self-disclosures that occur online can be intensified by photos and other highly personal content. So when online professionalism is breached, what are the negative aspects? Violation of privacy. So for psychiatrists, they discuss aspects of a patient's care on Facebook or other social media. Other friends may be privy to potentially compromising information about the patient. Patients with mental illness are stigmatized the world over, not just here in Trinidad and the Caribbean. So this violation of privacy could lead to things like social stigmatization, loss of friends, loss of family, employment discrimination. You may not be able to get a job, and denial of insurance companies. Insurance companies may see this information online and contact you and say, well, why wasn't this illness disclosed on your application form, right? And you find that your medical insurance is revoked. When patient confidentiality is violated online, under normal circumstances, patient confidentiality can only be breached under very strict conditions. And if you do this online, then you don't escape the medical legal consequences, right? Defamation. All postings that are done online are subject to the same laws of copyright and defamation as written or verbal communications. So again, you don't escape legal consequences just because you use a social media platform to review confidential patient information, right? So there's individual consequences: loss of job prospects, loss of earnings, loss of credibility, loss of insurance coverage, and then there's detriment to the profession as a whole, right? It looks bad when these things happen. It reflects badly on healthcare professionals generally. So we're going to talk about the online disinhibition effect. Under normal circumstances, it's benign versus toxic disinhibition, but we'll be more focusing on toxic disinhibition. Benign disinhibition, when you're online, you share deeply personal feelings and emotions, and you display unusual acts of kindness and generosity. Toxic disinhibition is associated with rude language, swearing, expressions of anger, expressions of hatred, can be associated with visiting pornographic or violent websites. So some specific aspects of the online disinhibition effect is dissociative anonymity. So people's identity is not easy to determine online. It's either altered or non-existent. And this contributes to the dissociation of offline and online personas. So people who are online think that whatever they say or whatever they do online can't be linked to their real lives. And the online self becomes compartmentalized. Invisibility. In most online environments, people can't see each other. And this invisibility gives users the courage to do and say things they normally wouldn't. People don't have to worry about how they look or sound when they type a message, so the opportunity to be physically invisible amplifies the disinhibition effect. Asynchronicity. A lot of online interaction does not take place in real time, so not having to cope with someone's immediate reaction is a source of disinhibition. Normal communication is a feedback loop of disclosure and behavioral expression, reinforcing social norms. So this is lost online. It's called the emotional hit and run. Solipsistic introjection. People may begin to treat the online environment as something akin to their own imagination. So just as daydreaming and fantasizing or talking to oneself feels safe when you're online and in that online environment, you feel safe as well, and it encourages disinhibition. Dissociative imagination. People may feel that the imaginary characters they created exist in a different space, separate apart from the real world. They essentially split or dissociate online fiction from offline fact. And once they switch off the device, they believe that they can switch off their online identity as well, but it doesn't. Minimization of status and authority. The online environment is a level playing field, and the visual cues associated with authority are lost online, so even the most powerful figures have lost their status in the online environment. And with the appearances of authority minimized, people are more likely to speak out, misbehave, and engage in toxic disinhibition. So we'll skip these comments and So just want to talk very briefly about guidelines for use of social media, wherever you end up working, UK, US, Europe, in the Caribbean, your organization will have a social media policy. Read it, familiarize yourself with it, and follow it, right? Regularly review the privacy settings for all of your social media profiles. It's a laborious process, whether that's deliberately so or not, doesn't matter. Regularly review it. Don't use publicly accessible social media to discuss individual patients or their care. And don't bully, harass, or make gratuitous or unsubstantiated online comments. More guidelines for use of social media. Avoid entering into online relationships with patients. Remember, the doctor-patient relationship is very unequal. Okay, and exercise restraint when disclosing personal information on social networking or other sites, and check the content that's being displayed. So not everything about being online is negative. There's some positive aspects to having the healthcare professionals being online. It could be used to engage patients in public health and policy discussions. It could establish national, regional, and international networks, and it could actually facilitate patients access information about health and services. Okay, so this brings us to the end of the lecture on online professionalism. I hope it was instructive, and I hope to see you all again soon. Thanks for your attention.